So without wasting any time, I straight away jump to the panel discussion, and the topic is driving cost optimization and operational excellence. And you very well know that any IT activity leads to these cost optimization and operational excellence. But let me ask 30 seconds from each of my panelists. I will try to wrap it up in another 40 minutes. So don't worry, we will serve you hot lunch. So please bear with us. We started late, that's the reason it has been delayed. So let me start with only 30 seconds on what are the digital initiatives that your organization, even if you are a vendor, we would like to know what your organization is doing. And if you are a chemical or a petrochemical company, what is your organization doing, which will lead to cost optimization and operational excellence for petrochemical and chemical companies, and how are you measuring this digital maturity models? 30 seconds for all.
Okay, it's a very good point, and with respect to design, even I am coming from the automation side. So directly what we are doing as part of our deliverables is going to impact the overall productivity or the efficiency or sustainability solutions for the customer. But before I speak about customer, what we as an automation vendor are doing, that is also quite important to say that. As per the latest digital initiatives we are seeing around the world, we are also adapting. We also adapted the way we are executing our own projects just to align with customer in terms of optimizing their time, in terms of optimizing their the project execution duration, bringing the standard solutions, as well as making sure that what we deliver to the customer, it meets all the business KPI, what they wanted to do it. This is done using the technology called adaptive execution technology, which is basically supporting customers in achieving or increasing the overall project execution time, optimizing the overall project execution time. That is one thing we are doing it. Additional to that, basically we also have a lot of the digital solutions in both level 2, level 3, as level 4, where we bring the complete systems in one contextualized environment with which we can really utilize the complete advantage of the digital technologies, be it IoT, be it AI/ML, be it any other technology, whatever we speak today, all those things. This is how we are basically supporting the industries with digital.
Deepak, if you can talk about your initiatives in 30 seconds.
Yeah, so I think we are from Deepak Fertilizers and Petrochemicals. So one of the things is energy consumption is a big topic for us, right? So we have taken up initiatives to try to reduce the energy consumption by ideally 30%, but we will probably going to get a step by step. So we're using a lot of digital technologies, a lot of, I think from a roadmap perspective, we want to first try to understand where our pockets of consumptions are, right? So first is identification, and then the second is trying to make the changes, and then I think we're using some digital twin concepts which were mentioned before. So that is one of the key things, and along the entire supply chain, there are many initiatives we have taken, right from the product development to logistics to customer reach. I mean, one of the things that we mentioned is there is I heard some numbers saying 10 to 15% loss because of unplanned shutdown, right? Unplanned maintenance. So that becomes a core topic for us. So we are trying to implement digital technology which will help us minimize this shutdown, help us predict the equipment failures, right? And things like that. Given that it's only 30 seconds, I'll limit to that and later catch up more on that.
Mr. Pratap Nayak.
Yeah, we at Engineero, we work with process manufacturers, and we've worked with several of them to go end to end, starting from the data, handling the data, using the platforms, actually building very detailed models using applied AI, ML techniques, the visualization, and then integrating it with the workflow or automating it. The end result really is what is important for us. We work with them to make sure the certain key result areas are met, whether it's reliability, better production, better sustainability, better safety, yields, whatever. So that's really what we do with our customers.
Mr. Ritvik Rath.
Thank you, Pravinji. I think like any other petroleum company in the country and worldwide, the biggest, I think the cost factor is asset as far as we are concerned. So digitalization is majorly aimed at improving asset reliability and looking at the performance and how much we can sweat the assets over the years. The second thing, even though we sell petrol and diesel and other petroleum products, I think we're also an equally large logistics organization. So the supply chain and the logistics management is the second largest item where we see a huge amount of cost efficiency that can be brought in. And third, at the end is that it's driven for the customer. So how to understand the customer preferences, and thanks to COVID, there has been a huge shift in terms of the customer preferences, in terms of moving on to what I would say, the Olas and Ubers of the world rather than using their own vehicles. So with the shift and the way the youngsters driving preferences have shifted, so the customer outreach is also another critical area where we are focusing on.
Mr. Sheikh Faraz Osmani.
Thanks, Ravi. As a colleague from Hindustan Petroleum pointed out, Indian Oil
Please
again.
hold the mic close.
Yeah, Indian Oil again is one of India's largest petroleum organization. We are trying to build digital in our DNA. So we are doing operational excellence. Digitalization is right into refinery processes. We are doing process optimization of our key units by building digital twins. We are bringing AR/VR into safety. On logistics, both on inputs and the output side, where we handle crude, where we transport our products. We are using different technologies to optimize the whole value chain out of it. And as end customers, we have started various outreach programs. If you are an Indian customer, most probably you would be getting a SMS telling that your cylinder is due to empty in certain days. If you subscribe to our loyalty program, the Indian Oil One app, you would definitely get a lot of updates based on your fuel preferences. So as I said, as our chairman rightly put out, if you're not digital, you don't stay relevant. That's what drives us.
Mr. Tanuj Mittal. Your views.
So I represent the source system, and we work with companies in
Just replace the mic.
So I'll go once again. I represent Dassault Systems. We partner with companies in chemical and petrochemical segment to drive the benefit of digital technologies. Now, this can be in the area of IIoT, AI/ML, AR/VR, or virtual twin of the facility, or related to logistics management, or even to some extent cybersecurity, because all this digital technology does eventually need to be protected. Now this usually we do to drive benefits related to operational excellence, optimizing systems and processes, driving cost benefit for the organization, and also to promote safety. And that way, different areas, companies partner with us to drive these benefits. Back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Mittal. Now I come to the second part where I would require to get views from Mr. Ritvik and Rath and Tanuj Mittal. And here we are talking about new technologies, whether it is RPA, robotic process automation, AR, VR, AI, ML, and IoT deployed by companies. And I wanted to know, sir, how difficult or easy it is for upskilling and reskilling employees with the changing digital skill sets. And if you have problems, do you look for partners for partnering these so that once your employee level comes to a particular level, then they in turn can then mentor the other people in the team. So your views, sir. And here, sir, I would request for an MCQ kind of an answer, not a longish one, so that our crowd, the delegates also cheer up that they will get food really hot.
Yeah, Pravinji, point taken. I think the way you're moving around, it was very obvious that we are under time pressure. But coming back to these technologies, I thought having gone through these all last 5, 6 years, it would be cliched. But then considering the way the challenges are evolving, I think they're still relevant. So coming to these specific technologies that we talked about, I think it's out of my personal experiences that don't do a deep dive in the beginning itself. Okay. So first thing is that a very clear identification of the implementation area is important because otherwise attempting to implement such technologies across what I would say, across a huge set of systems or subsystems is very difficult. So the first thing is that there has to be clarity on what we intend to do. The second thing is that I think internally we need to have very specific focus groups which would be front-ending these and championing within the organization. Because what typically happens in companies like ours is that you would find a specific set of people who are very enthused. But then unless we have champions in the user organizations, it becomes very difficult to expand it further. The third thing is that in this, you need a partner, but a partner who would like to work long term with you. The challenges with organizations like us is engagement of partners due to various regulatory processes that are in place. But my submission would be don't try to have maybe 2, 3 implementations and then try to get value out of it immediately because that's a sure shot recipe for disaster. The approach should be that, okay, have a plan where something which is maybe at least 2 years and preferably up to 3 years, and then take steps and at every implementation measure the returns that is coming out of that. So that is how you would, I would approach this if I would roll back the last 5 years, though we have gone through this whole experiment. And the second thing is that the executive sponsorship is also very critical in an organization like ours, okay? Because there will be some of these which will not be as jazzy or as enticing as some of the others. So things like RPA, for example, RPA is something where one needs to invest oneself very in a continuous manner, okay? You won't get results immediately. Maybe the first few automations will yield you some dividends, but post that, the discovery and the conversion into an automated process is very critical. And that is where staying the course becomes very important for all of us. Okay, now coming to some of the other areas is where I think there is a skill gap as far as we are seeing in the market. You would have people who would come in and take you to a certain extent. But beyond that, you need serious investments, and that's where I think organizations like ours and the peer organization need to focus on developing the talent within the universities. I think there has to be a serious industry academia discussion around it, and the academies have to produce students who will actually be useful for the industry rather than continuing with the standard courses that they do.
Tanuji,
So-
your additions to what
Yes.
Hari has already said.
So in addition to skill, I will also like to add will as a word to the whole initiative. The skill and will goes both hand in hand when you have to make any digital initiative successful. Usually the decisions are taken at the very top, at the CXO level. But then what is the readiness of the people who are going to actually execute this entire initiative? So assessment probably would be very handy in terms of conducting surveys and some workshops, etc., to assess where do we stand both in terms of skill as well as will today, and what is the precise effort which will take us from X to Y level. So once you have that information in place, and you can of course partner with various organizations to get this data in place in a structured manner. But once you have that information in place, then only you can design a program which will take care of both skill as well as will for the employees.
Thank you, sir. Now we move to the third part where we are talking about digital twins and for new manufacturing plants, which is a new norm for nowadays, and how will it be evolve with the passage of time. So I would request Sheikh Faraj Osmani to give his views.
Thank you. Digital twins, I think we have talked about it during the day a lot. What it enables me is to visualize a process logically and virtually rather than actually doing it. So I would give an example, a very simple example that we started with at Indian Oil. We started something called heat exchanger volume prediction. By use of the data, we are able to actually correctly point out when does a heat exchanger would require cleaning. Rather than doing a scheduled maintenance, we are now actually pointing in time when the heat exchanger requires cleaning. That has brought in a lot of efficiencies, right? In terms of the lower cost of operations, in terms of properly maintaining shutdowns. That's where digital twins are going towards. While you build a digital twins based on first principle models, the AI ML that comes in that allows you to visualize it on the past data, the present data, and then you can do a predictive analytics. Now think of a case when we are going for a net zero. You have a unit, you can digitally move it to the digital realm and then apply your models for the abatement, for energy efficiency, for the change of fuel, rather than practicing it on a piece of paper or doing calculations. That exactly gives you a better view of what is going to happen. That's where I see digital twins, moving towards. And then at something very interesting that we are doing with one of the leading academic institutions of the country is build a digital twin for a refinery and do a sort of flare prediction and find out what is the prognosis of the sources of that flare prediction is. Think of the whole operational efficiency that whole thing brings in when it is done. And that's where, the digital twin would actually move to as we go ahead.
Thank you, Sheikh Faraz Osmani ji. Now I move to the fourth question, which is on AI ML assisted analytics. How will it unlock opportunities in the long run? And we have Deepak Kenny, Ritvik ji, and Sanjeev ji. So your views.
Yeah, in a process plant, as we all know that presently data is the most valuable asset. And in majority of the process plant, they utilize maximum 27% of the data into effective utilization. This balance 73% of data which is there, which is basically being generated on the OT layer, is only stored in the historian and it's rarely used. Additional to that, we have other data silos in the plant, be it the functional data which is coming from the SAP systems, then we have the lot of engineering data which is into the engineering systems, basically your specifications, your plant designs and all those things. So when all these data which are in a different silos, so we hardly have any cross-referencing really to make an effective information out of these data to get the most out of the data what we have presently in this. So this is where basically AI and ML is going to play a major role. So the first step as part of AI ML is again basically integrating the data, bringing the data into the common platform, then contextualizing it, then creating a data model to derive the useful information out of this, and then applying this basically to get the outputs, derived outputs, other required outputs like productivity gain, or be it the sustainability requirements, or be it making the predictive assessment or of the asset information and all those things. So this is how the actually AI and ML is going to help more and more into this one. Maybe we can take one simple example of what we have seen in the presentation where motor is, as we all know, that it's a very essential and the simple element or the most critical element, not the simple element in a plant. And we all know that motor has got its all operational data, like its load, its speed, its vibrations, which is generally captured in the operation layer, basically in the control systems. Additional to that, it also has got additional information, like since it's being a critical, we have the data related with its maintenance, when it was last maintenance, how you are maintaining the spares, all those things are basically into your functional, like either somewhere in ERP or SAP tools. Plus we have the design parameters of this, like how the motor has been designed and what are the best optimum performance parameter for these data, this motor, and when it works, like what is the maximum speed it can achieve and all those things. These things are mainly into the design data. When all these data is basically harmonized and bring to a common platform, and on that in case we put the algorithms or the different data models to derive the information, we can definitely make this motor an element where we can see that how do we achieve the better performance out of this. We can also know when the motor is going to fail and how we are going to apply the maintenance, which is going to be more of a RPA method rather than doing the regular maintenance series. This is how the AI/ML is going to impact the overall the process. Motor is one element, whereas we have in a plant we have thousands of such elements. So put together, it's going to have a major impact in terms of the plant reliability, plant performance, productivity, and all other business KPIs.
Mr. Deepak Kedi. Additions to what he
Yeah,
has already said.
absolutely, absolutely. So I think one of the things is, of course, there are many use cases where AI ML can be used, but technically you should understand that is the tip of the iceberg, right? There is a lot of things on the foundation layer which has to be done, and you cannot get to the like the 90-10 analogy is there, right? So right from the plumbing, because you're in chemical, we could talk about plumbing, but data plumbing is the biggest thing. Bringing the right sense. I mean, we talked about 10,000, 50,000 tags in the previous year. That is, you are reaching to that 99.99%, right? Think about only the 50 tags or the 50 IO devices. Start with that first, right? Start collecting the data. Most of the data today, the systems don't store the data beyond 1 week, 2 week, right? So first is you have to start collecting the data, putting it on a historian. Think about the critical equipment failure. For us, it is about plant predicting when a shutdown can be reduced or making sure that a shutdown doesn't happen, right? So if you can predict that if you run this equipment for so long, it's going to fail, then you can start tuning your processes. And it goes all the way up to the supply chain, even up to the planning stage, right? Even from procurement of raw material. If I procure a raw material and I have to leave it in storage, but I know my plant will shut down if I run this equipment for another 2 days or 4 days, right? So it is going to create an entire supply chain mismatch. And then there might be excess inventory. And so if you look at that, this whole process requires a lot of planning. My view is, and it's a journey, right? AI/ML is a journey. Your first few models will only get you 30-40% accuracy. Technically, to reach at least 70-80% accuracy, you need 3 years of data and a lot of tweaking, fine-tuning for at least another 18 months before you reach to that. And then there comes a factor of human intelligence, right? The prediction which is coming from the AI/ML model, there are a lot of times where the human intelligence will say, no, that is not true, I don't accept it, right? So the adoption, we heard about talking about digital literacy, right? The adoption of that. So all of that has to be thought about. Think about just 2 or 3 use cases, pick only those 3, and try to get to that level of adoption and usage where they are very critical, and then we can move to the new ones. Otherwise, picking like 6, 7 at a time, trust me, there's a lot of energy goes into that, right? From the plumbing to bringing that data to one layer, to then the analytics, and then the prediction, correct? So that's my quick view.
Ritvik Rath, sir.
Yeah, I think with the bombardment of alerts, notifications that we get, talking about AI and ML and data analytics is like preaching to the choir. But if you look at the enterprise space, I would like to break this into 2 distinct parts, okay? The first is data, the second is analytics, okay? And top of that, how do we carry out our analytics through using AI and ML is more important. But as organizations, I think I agree with Deepak ji, I think we need to focus on the plumbing, that is the data part of it. And the first thing is, and out of my experience, what I've learned is that it's a 3-pronged issue. The first is the visibility or awareness, where my data lies and how much of that is useful to me. That is the first part of it. The second part of is the ownership, because organizations like ours, which have grown over the years and we had automation coming in batches, the challenges of data custody and data ownership. So how do you reach out to the owners and make sure that you get the data continuously and well in time? And the third thing is that making it available to the system so that you can carry out analytics on top of that. If these 3 are assured, I think half the problem is sorted out. And like what Deepak ji was again saying, taking a 5, 6, 10 is very difficult. So my suggestion would be pick up 2 or 3 critical areas at one time. And the first outcome will be within 6 months, which will be very, very, very exciting. But after that, one needs to stay the course for possibly another 6 months to a year before we can start seeing value on top of that. Now coming to the AI and ML part of it, actually it opens up huge possibilities. In fact, 5 years back when you're looking at our strategy development as far as how do we deploy the digital technologies, analytics was a very, very, what I would say, it was a term which was appealing to everyone across the ecosystem. But then what we realized as we went along is that's actually a horizontal layer. Okay? So while you can have focus areas like customer assets, supply chain, so on and so forth, this is something which is cutting across all the verticals. So one aspect which is very critical for getting to at least a steady state, in fact, as far as using analytics is concerned, is create a capability within the organization. So for that, what we did is that we identified sets of people across different verticals where we found that they will be useful to us in terms of data acquisition, and then bringing out the requirements from the field, validating them, and then presenting those back to the business. So that is where this is important, and I think today with the advent of a lot of open systems, the analytics part of it is becoming simpler as we progress. So it is not as exotic or as difficult as it was possibly 5-6 years back. But if I can sum it up, I think analytics is all about staying the course.
Faradji, your 30 seconds.
I think most of it has already been said. In skilling or skilling of our own people is very important when it comes to analytics, especially when you are doing it in industry like ours, in a refinery or in Indian oil or oil industry in India, because we know our domain best. Right? We know our equipment, we know our processes. It's very tough for an outside vendor to come in and understand and then deploy a model. So in skilling is very important. That's something we have done with our team. We have set up a team of data scientists and data engineers. The other part is close the loop. We started with a simple exercise of doing analytics of all the user reviews that are posted on our social media, on Google Maps for our petrol pumps. And we did something called aspect-based sentiment analysis. And then we go back, these sentiments flow to our field officers. They go back to the petrol pumps and try to improve or get the feedback back to the owners, and of course in some cases we reach out to the customers as well. So the whole aim of analytics is to make the end customer experience more enriching, and hence closing the loop is very important. And when this is a field which is very exciting. When we did this thing, sentiment analysis 2 years back and last year, the model used to run very slowly, right? Moment generative AI came in and we pushed this model onto generative AI, it just supercharged the model. So generative AI is something very exciting. We are doing a lot of stuff on it. And as we go ahead, this field is going to open up a lot of possibilities, especially when we are talking about sustainability, when we are talking about net zero. AI and ML is going to be the bedrock of it.
Thank you, sir. Now my next set of questions is to Mr. Sanjeev and Mr. Tanuj Mittal. And here we are talking about smart manufacturing or smart factories or 5G factories that they talk about. But the problem is once you talk about smart, people feel that they would be out of jobs. So how do you do this balancing act and also see that it unfolds with the passage of time? To start with Sanjeev and then to Tanuj. Not long answers, very short answers.
Okay. The purpose of smart factory is basically not to, as you rightly told, is not to minimize the jobs and other things. It's the purpose of smart factory is basically again to move from automation to autonomous, because already you know that like companies have achieved good amount of optimization in terms of operators using the automation. So what smart factory is going to bring to the organization is basically the visibility, the transparency, then predictability. So these three things are going to help to achieve the autonomous or optimized operations. This is how it's going to help us. Now, how it is basically achieved is, again, there are multiple things, and as a starting point, as right sir already told, having the right connectivity is the basic point, and this is where it starts. So in a nutshell, what I wanted to tell you is, again, since I wanted to short it, so it is basically not to minimize the operators and all. It is basically to achieve the more productivity out of the existing systems.
Tanuj ji.
to what he just said. Smart factories as a initiative, I don't think it is going to go away. It is going to stay. And we will see more and more things happening towards smart factory. But then the assumption that it will lead to job losses may not be entirely true. Probably the job repurposing will happen. So X job may go away, but Y and Z job may get created, which means the onus of reskilling or bringing in new skills to the workforce is what is that we have to deliberate more and see to it that one and everyone is either reskilled or he shifts to a new set of job which is going to get created by a smart factory.
Thank you for very short answers, but I think very rightly said. Now I come to how can chemical and petrochemical companies accelerate their digital initiatives to keep pace with other verticals. So here, Mr. Nair first, and then to Sanjeev ji.
Yeah, one of the important things that we've seen, we work now with several customers really doing the digitalization. It's very important, and I think Ritvik indicated that you don't put the cart before the horse. I mean, there's so much, there's the allure of dazzling technology that, people kind of go and they want to just acquire. But having a very clear picture of what is it that you really want what is the problem you want to solve? What can you achieve? Because you may already be solving the problem. You don't need to rip it up and put a, total new ML system for that. So the whole idea is to do something faster, better, more of it. And there are other things that come out of it, better learning, you raise the bar. So that is one part to be very careful about. The second is, we were talking about skilling. And, this whole area of applied AI, process manufacturers, they have to upskill or reskill, but the focus has to be more on usage. How do you use the technology? Rather than, the analogy would be, you're running a restaurant. Are you going to go and hire cooks and reskill them to work with better, ovens and things like that? Or are you going to go hire someone who's very good at making the oven? So there's a lot of fundamental research happening, improving AI and things like that. So that is very important, whether it's data science, AI, algorithms. So that our industry has to be taking care. And we've seen this working with several clients who've come to us after things haven't worked so well. And this is where we've seen some of the pitfalls. But so taking care of that and having that kind of channelized and that direction, I think will help our industry, move faster than we are.
Sanjeev ji, your views.
Yeah, as it rightly said, it's basically a journey which starts with creating a business model or the maturity assessment. Then definitely the most important thing is to have come out with a program where you really need to identify what are the main things what you want to achieve, be it your KPI, business, or pain points which you wanted to understand. And based on that, basically you need to have the culture developed. When I say culture, it is basically in terms of the development of the operators or the people working around this, skilling, reskilling, all these things. Then comes the implementation of the technologies. So we have the technology available, but unless we have the right skills people available to operate this, so then you may not achieve the result what you wanted. And this is also one of the reasons why 7 out of 10 the digital projects are very hard to move out of the POC stage to the implementation stage or the deployment stage. So this is where I think one thing which I think industries need to follow.
Thank you, Sanjeev ji. Now, there is a short presentation. I would request Pratap Nair to only take 10 minutes. And so get the presentation ready. And he's also trying to answer this through his presentation. The converging digitalization and sustainability goals is not an easy task. And how is he helping, or how is his company, which is Ingenero Technologies, helping chemical and petrochemical companies to meet this convergence?
Thank you,
10
Rohit.
minutes, sir,
Yes,
so that we can break for
I
lunch.
know everyone's tugging at the
1:55.
leash here. So, very quickly, Enginero, we have been doing this now for several years. We actually got several implementations that deployments we've done of what we call applied AI systems across several different regions in North America, Asia Pacific, Europe, and so on. And several different use cases, and we've got about 50 plus digital solutions actually operating in refineries, midstream, petrochemical, specialty chemical facilities, covering all kinds of use cases, whether it's sustainability, safety, productivity, profitability, and so on. Now, as a company, we have been doing analytics. We had a very prescient model when we first started in 2001, remotely supporting operating plants by taking data and doing analytics using what we call ML today, data driven as well as fundamental models. And that, since 2015, we've been actually deploying automated systems for our clients. So what is applied AI? Data, yes, we've got all kinds of data lying. We were talking about this earlier. It's in all disparate areas, but there's enough data when you talk of process manufacturing. Over the last decade, there's been tremendous improvements in hardware, computing power at much lower costs. So that has spawned off a whole lot of what I call digital solutions, which is where we've seen the ML, AI type solutions, the IoTs, and there's a whole bunch of what we call digital solutions. Utilizing this, I mean, that's really the whole area we're talking about. It requires a fair amount of specialized engineering, whether we have data engineering, like it was mentioned earlier. That's a key place you start. A lot of people gloss over it, but that's very, very important, and it's fairly time consuming, having the right data, the relevant data, making sure it's processed properly, and then the analytics piece, and then the decision engineering piece. All these are very important engineering aspects, which I call applied AI engineering. And that's really what provides the augmented intelligence to give you all the better results for whether it's sustainability, productivity, and so that's the whole area of applied AI. Applied AI using these ML models or even fundamental models in combination, hybrid models, it's a very important part of any digital solution, because at the end of the day, we've worked with customers where they've taken the data, they've created great visuals, but we've often heard that, hey, we're getting nothing out of it. So that's where you really need to get into the deeper analytics to make more sense of what the data is saying. So what is really an applied AI system? What does it look like? You have it collecting the data, doing the auto analytics, ability to do different kinds of analytics, whether it's descriptive, diagnostic, predictive, prescriptive. Feedback is taken, and the AI models are continuously improving based on the feedback, implementation, and then you have the other ability with that is with the IIoT, what I call actually Internet of People, because your ability for people sitting remotely to actually access all this, run what-ifs, and provide additional inputs and insights. Because here today with all this, you are able to actually take the data to the experts rather than experts going to the data. And so at the end of the day, that's really implementing of that. Once in an advanced state, it'll be auto-tuning, auto-running, auto-adapting, and closing the loop, like we heard from IOCL, is very important at the end of the day. But you have to build the credibility of these systems before that last step is taken to automate it, either with robots or APC or whatever. And that's really where the value comes in. And so there's a whole staged, phased approach to get there, as we've been discussing in the panel. So the key objectives really for doing an applied AI application is really, what are you trying to get out of it? Do things, be able to do more things, better, faster, automate rote tasks. And at the end of the day, very important aspect which often gets overlooked is the learning. You don't know what you don't know. And systems like this can actually provide you with that knowledge and raise the bar on what you can do beyond. And the applications, where do you use it? Like we mentioned earlier, it could be safety, sustainability, reliability, productivity, yields, and that's the whole thing. So in the sustainability area, one very important aspect, there's actionable sustainability. What I call actionable sustainability, 3 areas. What best can I do with what I've got, the assets that I've got? And this is where a lot of the operational AI comes in. We're working with operating plants, being able to monitor it better, improve the performance, get better prescriptions, and so on. So automatically that will improve your emission profile, be able to run better, improve your raw material usage, and so on. So that's one direct application which is very important. The other area is, of course, digital solutions, improving upon your even designing of things. So that's the second area where I call short-term projects, whether it's using biofuels, using alternate fuels, or circular recycling. All these bolting on to improve your emissions with carbon capture. All these require new and improved designs, and that could be done a lot faster with digital solutions. And then of course there's the third, more long-term, which is more strategic, which is, I'd say, 2030 and beyond, maybe intensifying processes, electrifying, the cracker, for example, longer-term projects. So let's quickly look at what I was talking earlier. It's really an end-to-end. When you talk of applied AI, you start with data, you have to process the data, do the model, put the models in place, make it accessible across the board, remotely as well as locally, and then integrating it with your workflow, having access for people across the board. So it's really a conglomeration of various different kinds of technologies that ultimately provides a solution. One thing I would like to point out here, and that is, people talk of models. It's not as trivial. Building, even just like you hear of foundational models with generative AI, building foundational models in our domain is also very important. There's a lot of training, a lot of testing that has to happen before you can have a very robust model that you can hang your hat on. At the end of the day, whatever results come out of this, you can very quickly lose credibility if you just very quickly, take a data model, throw it in there. People can tell you that you can do it in a week. That's far from the truth, because really it takes time, and you have to put models out there with enough testing that has gone in to make sure that the usage happens and there's enough credibility that's built. We've done this at several places. I'll just run through several results that have come from several of the case examples that we've deployed since 2015. This is an ethylene complex in Middle East, where they've really been able to expand their run lengths, expand the time between turnarounds, improve production and reliability and so on. And tremendous improvements. This is something that they've been able to actually project. Here's an example with an acetylene facility. You'll see some of the improvements, direct impact on sustainability coming from here. Better usage of hydrogen, decreasing losses of ethylene, improving ethylene production, and improved fuel, and so on. Another example, steam balances across several US refiners where this was done. Again, this is not just a dashboard that just throws numbers and shows you what is happening, but it also does a lot of predictions and prescriptions, live benchmarking, telling you what, what was the best before, what can be done better, and so on, an intelligent dashboard. And this has really provided a lot of benefits to this refiner we've been working with. Another example, these are places we worked with delayed coker, various areas like predicting outage, which is not very easily measured and is always prone to a lot of errors. So areas like that where these were some of the use cases where it was done, predicting fouling, the furnace performance, and tremendous benefits, whether it's from the turnarounds or better planning and so on. And my last slide here, just to give you an idea, this was done, we've done this across several different furnaces where these are dashboards, intelligent dashboards that actually show you clearly what the fouling situation is and prescribe how you can be running the furnaces better. And that has really provided tremendous benefits to the customers where this has been implemented. So that kind of in a nutshell is what I wanted to share with you. We have a booth here. If any detailed questions, feel free to drop by and we'll be more than willing to answer. A lot of my colleagues are here with me. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Pratap Nayak, for your short and sweet presentation.